Hi, my name is Jane Latour, and I am making this video to help parents or grandparents or someone who has a special needs person that has difficulty with either keeping their clothes on or as our little guy had a difficult time not putting his hands into his pants or pulling off his diaper. And I was looking for a way to create adaptive clothing that would help the child not look so atypical. We had purchased one-piece outfits that were rather expensive and looked sort of like pajamas. I had made some of those, but I felt like there had to be a way to take just regular clothing and turn it into one-piece outfits that would help these children. And so I came up with the idea of taking regular pants that have elastic waists and t-shirts or crew neck shirts that I could adapt into one-piece outfits. And I'm hoping this video will help you to see how this is done. I will say in the onset, if you are a seamstress, you should have no problem with this, but if you're a novice, the prerequisite is you do have to know how to put in a zipper. Now that's the trickiest part of this whole process. The other pieces are pretty easy to deal with. Typically, this takes me about 45 minutes to complete from start to finish. So in this video, you'll just be seeing clips and pieces of how I do this, and I hope this is helpful to you. When you're considering what to purchase, and at this point I'm going to turn my phone around, when you are choosing materials and garments to make into adaptive clothing, you need to, number one, consider what is it that this child or this adult will be willing to wear. Again, you have to have elastic waist and you do have to have a crew neck when you're making this outfit. You want the elastic waist, when stretched out, to be not much larger than or not much smaller than the bottom of the shirt, and I'll show you that in the next section. As you see, this is the shirt that I have. It's just a regular t-shirt. I have found the Russell products work quite well. And again, you need to think about the child or the person that you're dealing with and what feels good to their bodies. You don't want to put something that to them is itchy, or like our guy can't stand elastic around the wrist, so I avoid that type stuff. But when you're purchasing a shirt and the pants, you want to make sure that when you stretch the pants out, that they are close to the same width as the bottom of the shirt. Another thing to consider is you can use either shorts or pants for this. Be aware, like for instance, I have made several shorts outfits, but our guy loves to rip off diapers, and so he pretty quickly figured out he could go up the pant leg to do that. So this summer I am doing lightweight, those like water wicking pants that are cool, so that he cannot reach his diaper even in the summertime. But again, being aware of the fabrics and the season, you wouldn't want to have a fleece on the child in the summertime. Okay, the items you're going to need to make this are the pants, a shirt, again that the width of the bottom is not a lot larger than the width of the pants pulled out. You're going to need bias binding, and I use the type that is double folded, and you'll see how I cut it in just a few minutes. And then a zipper. Now you'll notice this zipper doesn't happen to match this outfit, which really doesn't matter because you don't see the zipper anyway. It was just one I had on hand. If you're making an outfit for a child, a smaller child, you can use like a 12-inch zipper. If it's for a teen or an adult, you need to have at least a 16 to 20 inch zipper. I would not go beyond 20 inches because when you get down to 22, 24, it does not fit into the shirt well to fold over. So 16 to 20 inches for the zipper. Next part in the process is cutting the back, because that's where your zipper is going to go. So obviously find the back of the shirt. And again, it needs to be a crew neck shirt, cannot be a collared shirt, will not work on the collared. So at this point, I find the center of the back by putting my shoulders together, putting my seams of the back together to find exactly where my back is. This one's a little harder to find because it doesn't have a seam. So I'm going to figure out exactly where this is on this shirt. It doesn't have seams under the arms. If you've got a shirt that's got seams under the arms, that makes it a little simpler, but again, no big deal. So to find this one, now I put those pins together and find the center back, and I'm going to pin that so I've got a good straight area to surface to be able to cut. Pin this one, and then I'm going to stretch this out and get a nice straight line, and at that point I can cut the center of the back of this shirt. Doesn't have to be perfect, but as close to the center of the back as you can get. Then the next thing I'm going to do is take my bias binding and measure out the length of what I just cut and add about a quarter to half an inch of length to that so that I have something to fold down at the top. So let me cut that. Lay that aside. And then I take my bias binding. Again, it's a double fold bias binding. I'm going to cut that right in half, right down the center line. And this is what I'm going to use to put a binding on the back of the shirt so that I have something to attach the zipper to. Okay, now I have my two pieces of bias binding cut. I like to take the side that was the folded side, not the side I just cut, and I like to fold that in half again. You can get up a little closer to see that. And what I do is I press that down with a iron to make a nice edge, and then I stitch that on the machine. I do that so that it gives a little more finished edge inside the garment where your zipper is going to go, but also so that it doesn't get caught in the zipper. It just helps the thing to lay much better. Again, I'm just turning down the already folded side and folding that in half and pressing that down to make a fold of about a quarter of an inch. And again, this will just make a little more finished edge where the zipper is going to go in. And you just keep doing that till you're at the end of the bias binding. Almost there. Seam. And there you have two pieces with little folded down seams on each side. I'm going to take those over to my machine and stitch down that folded side, and I'll show you how that looks at the end. Getting ready to just stitch down the side of the binding that I just folded, just again to just give it a little bit of a finished edge and make it less likely to catch in the zipper. when he's wearing the outfit. Okay, my machine decided to wad up a little, but we're good. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be on the inside. Nobody will see it. If you're like me, I like for it to be perfect, but I have to remind myself that this is a functional outfit and not on display for awards. You just want it to be functional, and you want it to be made well enough so they cannot pull it apart. If you were thinking about doing this stuff by hand, don't. You need to have at least a fairly good seamstress who can work on this. Almost at the end of this one. Back stitched. I catch it, snip my thread, and you'll see just have an edge here that is nicely sewn down, just to help it to not get caught in the zipper. You can cut. Okay, so now I have 2 pieces of bias binding that have been cut and then the edge sewn. And I'm going to take those and attach them to the right side of the shirt. So you want the right side of the bias binding to match the right side of the shirt. Pull these pins out that I stuck in earlier. You can match at the very bottom. Again, this is going inside the pants. You'll never see it. That doesn't need to have a flip over, but the top needs to be able to turn down to get a nice finished edge. So I'm going to pin these 2 together to the shirt to make a seam for my zipper. Okay, I'm just finishing up pinning the bias binding to the right side of the bias binding to the right side of the back of the shirt. Again, double check that you've got right sides together, or you'll kick yourself if you realize you put the right side to the wrong side. So right sides together, and this shirt was a little stretchy, and I had to just be really careful that I didn't let it stretch past the binding, because again, I needed to have a little piece at the top, so I'll be able to fold that down to finish that edge. So the end result looks like this. This is the right side of this shirt in the back with bias binding on each side. I'll lay it down so maybe it's a little more visible. Pin to each side. Again, the binding has been stitched on the where I pressed out and made that a little bit smaller, but it gives you a nice big area to be able to work with. The next part is going to be stitching this on the machine, and I stitched this with about a 1/4 inch seam. You do not want to do a full 5/8. It's not necessary. It'll make it too bulky. Just a 1/4 inch seam will be enough, and you just stitch top to bottom on both sides. And when I get that done, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, here I am stitching that 1/4 inch seam. I actually just sort of use the edge of my presser foot to help determine where the width of the seam is. And stitch down, being careful again not to let my shirt stretch, and double checking the bottom to make sure it's not folding over. And I just stitch right down to make myself a nice surface to be able to attach my zipper to. There, I can feel my t-shirt part trying to roll, so I'm just double checking that to make sure it stays laying flat and doesn't roll while I'm stitching. And obviously pulling out the pins as I go. stitching at the bottom just to give it make sure it stays in place. And I will do the exact same thing to the other side. With that, I have my zipper edge finished so that I'll be able to install my zipper. Again, it's going to be, you've got the bias binding right sides together, and the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge and turn it back to make my zipper edge, and then I'm going to press it because I just want it to have a nice crisp edge to it, and it's much easier to do that if it's been pressed. So I'll take the time to press both of those edges. Again, just getting a nice crisp edge to put my zipper into. And if you're gonna let it roll anyway, maybe have a little bit of the shirt side folded in, I mean just a smidgen, towards the bias binding rather than having the binding sticking out to be seen. Again, it's no big deal if some of it does poke out. These are clothing, this is clothing that's supposed to be functional. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but if you're like me, I want my sewing to be as nice as I can make it. So there's one edge done to make for the zipper side, and I'm going to go ahead and press down the other edge, and then I'll show you where to move from there. So as you can see, I have two sides of the shirt that can come together. This is where my zipper will go. I'm going to tell you, however you put in a zipper is how you should put in the zipper. You do want to be cautious because this fabric does tend to give, to just make sure you don't end up with this kind of a look. And again, if something like that happens, it's adaptive clothing. It's going to still serve its purpose, but I'm going to try my best to get it when I get the zipper put in so that each side matches. So the next part is going to be to measure the length of my zipper against this shirt to know where I need to put my seam in at the bottom. I do want to make sure that the top of the zipper closure is close to the top of the shirt. Otherwise, you'll have a big space and have to deal with a snap or some kind of a clip to get that, or a hook and eye to get it to close. And if you'll just go ahead and put it close to the top where the zipper closure ends, that's just a smart thing to do. Then I'm going to measure out. Need to grab my pins real quickly. And see where the bottom seam will start, because I need to close that up before I put the zipper in. And again, this just has to be close, doesn't have to be perfect. So right about there is where this zipper is going to be on this outfit. And I can even move it up just a little bit more. And then for me, the way I put in a zipper is I usually do the closure, and then I just go ahead and put the zipper in one side at a time. Some of you may have learned the method of sewing it all the way and having a long stitch. For me, I've sewn long enough that I can just put the bottom seam in and then match the zipper. Again, this is the part that is a little more tricky, and you do need to know how to put in a zipper. If you're not certain how to put in a zipper, you might want to let some other seamstress deal with this, or go on YouTube and learn how to put in a zipper. I would want to practice a few times before I actually spent the time and money on an adaptive outfit. So the next part that I'm going to do is putting the two bottom pieces together. And again, right sides together. Let's see, I've got some thread to get rid of. There. Put the right sides together. and you fold out that seam a bit. You just fold it completely out. Make sure your seams match on where the zipper will be going in, just to have a nice edge here. And I'm going to stitch right along that edge to make the bottom of the seam that does not have the zipper casing in it. So let me pull these out again. Match this up. Checking along the way that my seam is where the bias binding is sewn in. That's going to be the seam that I stitch close to make the bottom of the shirt pull together, not have a hole at the bottom. This is the part where your zipper is not. It's just the part that is closed, the bottom of your shirt. That's where I end it. Again, making sure my seam pretty close to matches. And from this point to this point, I'm going to stitch on my machine right along the edge where I just sewed the binding in. And again, what you want it to look like is to just be solid on the bottom of that, above or below where the zipper is going to go. Okay, so this is where I'm doing the closing at the bottom. Again, I've got my bias binding flipped out, and I'm just basically sewing real close to the seam that I just attached to the shirt to close the bottom of the shirt below the zipper. Out the pins, snip the excess thread, check both sides to make sure I didn't catch anything I didn't want to catch, and then open it up, and there you've got the bottom of the shirt. And again, you see this? It didn't quite meet, but it doesn't really matter. It's going to be unseen inside the pants. The part that I want to make certain meets, if possible, is the top of the shirt. Okay, I'm just going to pin in this zipper. Again, I make sure that top clasp is near the top of the shirt. I don't worry about the little extra piece. I'll fold that in after I put the zipper in. So I'll keep going down, pinning this in. To the zipper. Again, this goes back to how you were taught to put in a zipper. You may already have a part of this closed and you're just putting the zipper in where the seam is. That's fine. I've sewn enough years that I'm able to just go ahead and put it in this way. And I find I can sort of adjust with these outfits a little easier this way. It's gonna pin all the way down until you reach the section where you've already sewn it together. And the end of your zipper, the little clasp that stops the zipper mechanism, should come close to the end of where, or the start of the end of the, or the start of the bottom of the shirt where you've closed it in. And so there's one side pinned in, and I'm going to go ahead and pin in the other side. and we'll check it out when I'm through sewing in the zipper. Okay, with that, I have my zipper pinned in, and you can see it just that lays nice and flat. That top section is together, and hopefully after I get through sewing it, it will still be together in the same way. Sometimes, like I said, you can end up with it stretching a little bit, but hopefully it will end up right. Again, be reminded, this is functional clothing. It doesn't have to be perfect. I've attached my presser foot for my zipper, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And let's see here. Just making sure that I catch all the parts and pieces that I'm supposed to catch. When you're doing this, I probably should have flipped it from the bottom, but I flipped it from the top, and that's fine. I'll just have to make sure I don't catch the neck while I'm sewing this. Still along the way, making sure I've got that neck out of the way and no other fabric caught in. Okay, I'm going to let him turn this off until I finish the last of this zipper. Okay, with that I have the zipper in. You can see how that, again, it's not perfect. I would not want my 9th grade home ec teacher to check my zipper out. It's not perfect, but it is certainly functional, and as you can see, gives an opening for the child to be able to get into. And the interior, again, is fixed so that it's out of the way. It's not going to get caught in the zipper as it would if you left that raw edge. The next part I have to do is fold down this top just to give it a nice look. I'm just going to fold that down like this, I think. Fold that in just to make it look nice and neat up the top. Pin it, and you can either stitch it on your machine or stitch it by hand. Either one will work fine because this doesn't get any pressure. A lot of you snip this thread right here that's sticking out. I have learned if I will snip my threads along the way, it's a lot of headache left that you don't have to deal with afterwards. Again, I'm gonna fold this one down. to get a nice edge right here. And then I will stitch it. So again, you want just to have a nice finished edge at the top. Okay, and with that, I have that top turned down and turned in so that you've got somewhat of a finished edge. If you look at mine, you can tell it's maybe 1/8 of an inch off. Again, no big deal. It's functional, it works, and it looks fine. Okay, the next part that you're going to do is attach the pants to the bottom, the top of the pants to the bottom of the shirt. And the way you're going to do this is first of all, you got your back seam. You need to find the middle of your front. So I'm going to take the back seam and I'm going to put a pin in where the middle of the front is by folding it. So there I found the middle of the front. Then I'm going to put my back seams together, back and front seam together, the seam I just found, and find my side seams. So there's one side seam on the left side of the shirt, and here's the other side seam on the right side of the shirt. And that's going to be my guide for how to pin the pants to the shirt. The next thing you're going to do is turn the shirt inside out. Turn the shirt inside out. And then you're going to take the pants, making sure the front of the pants or where the front of the shirt is, the back of the pants or where the back of the shirt is, they are right side out. And you're going to drop them inside the shirt. So it's going to look like that. So I've got the back side, the back seam of the shirt to the back seam of the pants to the back seam of the shirt. Can you get just a little bit closer here? I have learned if you stitch this to the very tip top of the pants, it catches in the elastic. And a lot of times your machine does not want to handle that well. So I've learned to sew it just below where the elastic is. So this is where I start pinning. So I pin just below where the elastic is onto the pants. So I've got my back seam of the shirt, right sides together. So the right side of the shirt to the right side of the pants. And here I am at the front seam. This pair of pants has a little pull string in it, so I need to make sure that's out of the way. And I'm going to take actually need to sort of maneuver it this way so I can make sure it's out of the way and it's not in my way when I'm sewing. So I'll actually pin it inside so I can make sure it's out of the way and not going to get caught. So I'm going to take the front seam. Here's the front seam of the pants. Again, I found that place where when I measured where the front seam of the shirt is, and I'm going to put that in just below the elastic. Then I'm going to do the same to the side. Now this side seam on these pants is right here. I'm going to find the side seam to the elastic or to the shirt, and again put it just below the elastic and pin it. Right sides together. That one. And then the last one is right over here. I'm going to pin this one here to the last side seam. Now when you hold it up, you're going to notice you've got extra fabric hanging down. This is where on your machine, you're going to set your machine for the zigzag stitch. I will warn you, do not try to stitch this in by hand. If you do, the child will pull it apart. It needs to be put in with a good firm zigzag stitch. I set my stitch so that it is as a fairly wide stitch and not real close together, because I found if I do have to make a repair, I don't want it so close together that I have a difficult time getting it out. I start with the back, making sure that bias binding is laid flat, and as you're stitching, you are pulling the pants. And I'll let him video this as I am doing it. I don't think you could just leave it on because I should get started. So here I am setting my machine for my zigzag stitch. Mine shows my numbers to show what the size stitch is. I've got the length apart set at 3.5, and I've got the width set at 4. I don't know what your calibrations would be on your machine. And by the way, you notice these pants are green, but I'm sewing with gray thread. I match the thread to the shirt because you never see any of the stitches on the pants. So again, I'm going to start with the back of the pants where the bias binding is. Put my needle into the fabric. Right here. Again, below the elastic. I'm going to put a couple of stitches in to be able to get it to hold. And then I'm going to begin stretching the pants to match the shirt. I want to make sure that bias binding is caught too so that it's not flip-flopping around. Okay, here we go. Takes a little bit of willpower here to keep that shirt, and occasionally you'll see me take a pin and just stick it in to try to keep it in line. Move it up a little. You can just stop and adjust along the way. We'll stretch it. Put a pin in where I've stretched. And again, this does not have to be perfect because it's never even seen. The point is to keep it so that that child cannot pull this apart. Getting to the side here. Continuing to pull the elastic to stretch it. Machine didn't like that. Stretch again, pin again, as I go. Got an error. There it goes. When I pinned that one, I got it a little high, so I had to adjust it again. I want it to be below the elastic because if it's not, it makes the machine have a really hard time sewing. You'll skip stitches. Unless you've got a machine that's designed to be able to sew elastic well. I'm at that point where I'm at the where the drawstring is. I just want to make sure I've got that out of the way, so I'm not having to rip out seams later to get it out. Continue to sew and stretch, sew and stretch. here just to help me guide it. Getting near the end of having this shirt completely attached to the pants. Back stitch to make sure it catches well. And I'll snip my threads. Double check that everything caught well. Take these pins out because I don't want to forget them for later. Okay, there it is. All stitched in, all caught. If I look at the pants side, you can see I've got that gray thread, but you never see it because it's on the inside, and it's more important that I'm matching the shirt because that is visible. Okay, then I'm going to flip it, pull the pants through the neck hole. We'll unzip it one. And there you have a one-piece outfit. Now you may look at it and say, my goodness, how is that going to fit on that child? Well, what happens is they put it on and the pants pull up here and the shirt flops over, and it just looks like they have a shirt on that's put into their pants. No one can tell that they are actually attached, and they get into it again through the zipper that's in the back, so they can't reach it, can't get to it. And there you have one-piece adaptive clothing. At the end of this video, I'll have maybe my grandson. That'll be up to his parents whether or not he can model this, if they'd like him on the video, but you get the idea. They will put it on, and this will just flop over the pants and look like they have in a tucked-in shirt. Hope this video has been helpful. I will have written instructions that you can accompany or download to accompany the video so that you can go back and look at the written instructions of how to make an adaptive outfit out of just regular clothing. Thank you. So this is our guy in his outfit, and this is what it looks like from the back. So there's our fella in his adaptive wear outfit.